presentation? Looks good? Okay, very good. All right, let's get going. Yeah, Larry has been to my clinic twice now, so he's becoming quite a groupie. But I appreciate the enthusiasm. I got a number of other good comments about this clinic, so I guess it's working. So we're talking about kit bashing, thinking outside the box. So what are our objectives today? We want to discuss how to differentiate and customize your structures, and emphasize your structures. They are Walthers structures when they leave the factory. After that, they're the dealers or wholesalers' property, and when you get them, they're your structures. You can do whatever you want with them. You do not have to follow the directions or do it the way Walthers thinks you should do it. I'm going to demonstrate how to plan out your kit bash, and a lot of this is to really to inspire you to unleash your creativity. There's so many different things you can do in kit bashing that you can't really do if you're going to build a kit per the instructions. So I'm assuming that everybody's built at least a few structure kits, and if you have, then you are more than qualified to try this process. So disclaimers: we're not going to focus on contest-winning models, I mean, there's plenty of people that can talk to that kind of thing. But the reason is you need dozens, and if you have even a small layout, you need dozens of structures. If you have a large layout or club layout, you need literally hundreds of structures. So you do not have enough time to scratch build them all, and you're going to have trouble trying to find the structures you want. So I do claim to be a prototype modeler. I try to stick to what my prototype had in my era, but even within that, I don't count rivets. So if I complete a structure and it has the right feel of the prototype, then I'm okay with it. It doesn't have to have the exact number of windows and all that to satisfy me. So what is kit bashing? It's simply modifying a commercial kit to suit your needs. Turn that off. And it's much easier than scratch building. With scratch building, you have to go out and buy all your own parts and all that. And with kit bashing, you get the molded details, the doors, the windows, the roofs. You don't have to shop around, and you can follow most of the directions depending on how aggressively you've bashed this thing. So a few years ago, David Popp at Model Railroader had a challenge to his staff, and he gave everybody at Model Railroader a state line farm supply kit and challenged them to build something other than the state line farm supply. And they came up with quite a number of things. You see 4 of them shown here on his work table. And then he had here's 9 more. And these all came from the same kit. And what I like about this slide here is look at how many different things you can get out of this one kit. There's really no limit to what you can do. It's just your imagination, what you need for your layout, and go from there. So, when you look at some of these, I swear I've seen this furniture barn type of. There's a lot of little almost ghost towns in Texas you go through where their downtown is all closed up or maybe repurposed, and you see a lot of buildings like this. And certainly the fire station. I think everybody's seen this fire station, and so look at what you can do with that. They invited readers to send in their models, pictures of their models for this challenge, and I did not do that. I did not participate in the challenge, but it wasn't much longer than that. A few months later, I was looking at what to do with this industry on my layout, Lawndale enameling, and it's just kind of a messy blob of units have been added on so many times. Look at all these roof lines here. And of course, this is a present day photo. I don't know what it looks like 50 years ago. So it's anybody's guess. Certainly these containers, intermodal containers, weren't there. So it's kind of a guess. But I was looking at this domed roof here, and it made me think of the State Line farm supply. So I bought 2 kits and put them together, and I stretched them out to 8 times the area. Now, normally we're trying to compress our structures, trying to fit them into a tight spot. But a lot of times that becomes unrealistic. You see, you've been to a lot of layouts where some structure no larger than a shed gets a boxcar delivered to it every session, and that just can't be. So where I have the space, I try to expand things, and so using because I only need 2 of these walls to be visible, I was able to take all the nice detailed walls, put them in there, and then build something that's 8 times larger. And so that worked out great. So why do we kit bash? We need to fit a particular space. You need it longer or shorter or odd shaped like the one shown here. Oftentimes there is not a model that represents what it is you want to do. And at least in my case, I do not want my structures to look like, oh, there's that Walthers kit there. I'd hate it if somebody recognized my structures that way. So the other reason to kit bash is, what if you already have some kits and you don't know what to do with them? So everybody's got a big closet stacked to the ceiling with kits. I won't look for a show of hands, but everybody's got way more kits than they need. And what do you do with them? I can't use any of these structures on my layout as is, but maybe I can find another use for them and repurpose them. So I do a lot of kit bashing. I kit bash more often than not. When I don't kit bash is if I have a signature structure, something that I want to get exactly right. If I want an AP score. If a kit exists for the actual building I'm modeling, which is very rare, but it has happened twice now, then I build the kit. But and then common structures like grain elevators, you need a lot of those, at least on my layout. So I don't go crazy and kit bash all of those. Some of them I do. So if you haven't done kit bashing before, it can be kind of overwhelming. You open up the box and say you're going to kit bash, but now what do you do? How do you get going? So I break it down into 4 steps. So you define the footprint. So you scope out what area you have to work with on your layout, and not only the footprint, you're also defining the vision. What is the shape and the look of this thing? You find a kit that you think will work. You plan out how you're going to bash it, and then you build it. And you can use most of the instructions, most of the plans, depending on how aggressively you bash it. So let's go through the 4 steps here. Let's focus in on number 1, defining the footprint. So I'm going to talk about several ways to do this. So the easiest one is the stand-in structure. If you already have a structure, maybe it's somewhere else on the layout, or maybe it's in your, it's just off to the side. It's something you've stopped using. You put it in there. So this depot here, I think I paid $5 at a train show just to use as a stand-in structure, and it moves all around my layout. Wherever I need a depot, I put it over there and see, what looks right. Is the size going to work, and the shape of it, and so forth. Next thing you can do is make a template using cardboard. And the neat thing about the template is it defines your exact space, the angles, If you have an odd angled one like the photo we saw earlier, you can get all those angles exact. And then you can pick that up and take it to your workbench. And while you're working on the model, you can keep comparing it to the template or build it right over the template and not have to keep going back to the layout. The mock-up is something I use very frequently. Mock-up is great for helping you because it has the height. Sometimes your buildings get too tall or too short to look realistic, and you gotta work with them on that to get them where you want them. But it also serves the purpose of operations, and so until you get that structure built, it's a great fill-in, so your operators know where to go and park their cars. So I used to started out doing foam, using foam board, and that's gets kind of expensive, and it's harder to work with. And now I always use just cereal boxes. So you take a big cornflakes box and you turn it inside out, and you can glue those stuff together real quickly, and they're free. So reuse and recycle. I use the mock-ups not just for defining the exact dimensions of a structure I'm getting ready to build. I use the mock-ups actually when I'm doing my track planning. So before I built this, this is my Caterpillar tractor factory, and it's the largest factory on my layout. And to make sure I had the spacing for the tracks and make sure they all looked about right and reasonably accurate compared to the prototype, I built these boxes. And in this case, I didn't use the cereal boxes. I used the big shipping boxes that came to the house, and cut them until I had them where I wanted them. So they're very useful. So another way to define the footprint is the tape up. And so you just take some wall sections, use some masking tape, tape them up, and see how it looks. So I needed a structure here, a machine shop, and in this case, I don't have pictures or drawings of what my prototype would have had here, so I get to freelance it, which is kind of convenient. But it didn't look right. That's not big enough. So I found some other wall sections and taped them up and looked at those for a few days and said, yeah, that's what I want. So I call this the Goldilocks process. So you keep trying it until you get it right. If you have prototype information, then that's great. That can really help define what you're going to do. In this case, I have an aerial photo and a Sanborn map of the same structure. So this gives me a lot of definition where I want to go with this. This is something Tony Custer talks about in his book. He likes to use Photoshop a lot for a number of things, but he tried using Photoshop to kit bash some structures in the virtual world before he went to work actually building them. So here he took an interlocking tower and a depot and said, well, I've got a situation where I've kind of got a mashup of those, and so he put them together in the computer and test to see how's that going to work. How's this roof line going to interface with these windows? I'll leave the windows out, so you can do a lot of that thought process in the computer. This one over here, he took a merchant road building. It looks like he just took a picture of the box cover. This building is supposed to have a flat roof, but he said, well, I want to make something with a peaked roof and try it out. So there we've talked about 6 ways to define the footprint. And oftentimes I'll use 2 or 3 of these in tandem. And the important thing is these are all non-destructive. We haven't cut anything. We haven't glued anything. Really haven't. There's nothing invested in doing this other than a couple pieces of cardboard. So, encourage you to use this and really understand what it is you want to do before you get too far along. So the next thing is to decide on a kit. And so what I look for is, what is the architectural style? What is the building material? Is it brick? Is it wood, metal? The size, the shape, kind of the aspect ratio, and find something that is reasonably close. So, there's a lot of places to go and find these kits and buy these kits, catalogs, trade shows. Again, your closet is a great resource. Go to that and see, maybe there's something in there you can use. One thing I've been using a lot is I just Google for structures, and it pops up. You click on images. I don't want to see what's being sold. I just want to see the pictures. So I click on that, and this brings up hundreds of different kits, and you can scroll through them and see if the architectural lines are suitable for what you're doing. There's some other products you can try. Modulars are sometimes the way to go. And so Walthers used to build a modular system. They've discontinued that, but you can still find them on eBay and trade shows and that kind of thing. The DPM, they do still produce modulars, and so this is a good way to go. They have different architectural styles, square windows, rounded windows, and all sorts of things. They will also package up these wall sections into a kit where they add a roof and they add an awning and that kind of doors and windows. And so you have everything you need to build this particular kit. I took one of these kits and built it, again, expanding the footprint. I made it into this structure here for National Metalworks. Now, one of the neat things about DPM is they have an online resource. They have these templates that are available for free. You just download them to your computer and print them out, and then you paste them onto your mock-up and work with it till you get it where you like it. And the neat thing is it has the part number on each of these panels. So once you've pasted everything up and you want to know what you need to go and buy, you can quickly take an inventory and see what your shopping list should be. Now, Tony Custer says, don't read the label on the box when you're shopping. Just look at the pictures. And the reason he says that is he claims that Walthers is just horrible at mislabeling their products and putting the wrong labels on them. And, how much, what confusion that creates. And his example is he bought one of these Valley cement kits, and what was inside was actually that soybean plant he'd been looking for all this time. And so his friend said, "Oh, come on, Tony, you could scratch build this." Tony says, Yeah, I could scratch build it. I know how to do that. He says, but why should I? All the parts were in the box. I said, take them out and put them together. So, noted modelers like Tony do. He did a lot of kit bashing. He wrote a book on it. So I've read his book, and I've been to his clinic. And like Larry, I go to clinics more than once. Tony is such a great speaker. I've been to his kit bashing clinic at least twice. And but I still fall for the trap of reading the label. And so I showed up for our breakfast club meeting one day, and guy Jack, he's the company store guy at our club, and so he takes all the donations and then resells them at the train shows, and that funds the club activities. And he came in, he handed me this box. He says, Don, I've dragged this to I don't know how many train shows, and nobody will buy this. He says, I can't give it away. But Don, you're our division director. You're an NMRA guy. You need the NMRA headquarters building. I said, no, Jack, I do not need that. I model a prototype. There's no place on my layout for the NMRA headquarters building. Oh, come on. But he put it out there, and I had my hand on it. He pulled his hands away, and so now I own this kit. So I said, okay, whatever. I brought it home and I threw it in the closet. And so it wasn't but a few months later that I was looking at how to do the scenery. What kind of thing am I going to do with this area here down at the bottom of my helix? The bottom level is down at 28 inches off the ground, and I decided, I could utilize this space as an area for kids to play with some trains. There's a loop of track around the helix. It's actually a reverted loop. It's so I can turn the trains into stub end staging. But I could make it also use a Thomas the Tank area, kids to play with. So I looked for a Soder station, and nobody makes an HO Soder station. So I went to the closet and I found there's that NMRA headquarters building. That looks a lot like a station, and I'm pretty sure the architects had that in mind when they designed it. So the only thing I don't like about it is I'd really like it to be 2 stories instead of 1 to help fit in with the helix tracks. So I worked with it and got it put together. I took the 2 of the walls and glued them on top of the other 2 walls, and so I made the whole thing 2-story with only 2 sides. So this is what the structure looks like from the back when the roof is removed. So there's nothing there, but you don't know that because you can't see this side wall over here, and certainly can't see the back wall that's inside the helix. And so worked out great. And how much did I pay for that? 0. So kit bashing can be very economical. That's another point. So let's go back to our 4 steps, and let's walk through a couple of examples. So I've got this factory called the Austin Western plant, and they used to make things like road graders and steamrollers and that kind of thing. They made dump cars, rail cars for a while, and this is their power plant for the factory, a coal burner. And so I need to model this. And so I got this only is the only photo. Of course, it's been torn down decades ago. I've got this Sanborn map, so I can get a general idea. It has the main building, has the air compressor building back here. So Sanborn gave me that information, so that was great. So then I go off to find a power plant. So all of the power plants I could find were these. And how many of them look like my power plant? Well, exactly none of them. None of them are even close. So now what do I do? So I kept looking at the picture, and I said, that picture reminds me of something. And it reminds me of the Golden Valley canning kit. What are the roof line? Big, kind of shallow roof line. It's a brick exterior. That works. This is really good. And one reason it came to mind is I built one for a prior layout. So actually, I still had it. So I looked at it and said, this is going to work. So I said, I look at the Sanborn map, and my power plant is more square than rectangular. And that's good because I do need to compress this one. So I can compress the length. That's going to help. So this has a 4-section construction. And if I just lop off one section, that'll be good. I looked at the 2 end walls. One of them had a kind of a dock door. One of them had mainly just windows. And I decided to swap those over. And then this thing that's called the power plant at the canning company can be used as this air compressor building off to the side. So that's going to work out. Now, I'll just stop right there and tell you, I'm a retired engineer, and I've done literally thousands of drawings. And when I'm doing my kit bashing, I very seldom make a drawing. I could make a drawing, but kind of like Tony says, well, why should I bother? I don't need to. And I didn't even make this. I made this visual here for the clinic, but in my mind I said, yeah, lop that off, switch those around, boom, that's my plan. That's all the planning that went into it. And so then all I have to do is saw off this and start putting it together. That was really all there was to it. So I built it and painted it what I thought was the appropriate color from a black and white photo. And there you go. So now if you rivet count and say, well, Don, that window, those windows aren't quite right on either side. And it's yeah. But again, the building's no longer there. None of you have ever been there. So I say that's good enough. It's good enough for me. So that's the important person is that it's your railroad. So do what you want. So let's move on to another one. And if you guys have questions as you go, please go ahead and interrupt. This is the Wedren Depot, and this is the only known photo of it. And I looked around and I found this West Burlington Depot, which is I modeled the Burlington, and so they're it's not surprising these have similar lines to them, almost identical, except the cargo area is over here, freight end is over here, and passenger end's over there, which is the opposite of what the prototype was. So I could just deal with that, or I could change it. So I decided to take the challenge, but in a non-destructive way. I put the parts in my my copy machine, and I printed out several copies, and I cut and pasted them, and I offset these just because I couldn't see where the lines were when I got done with them. So put it together until I had the front wall to where I wanted it, and so well, that's my plan now. So now I know where the cut lines are. Put this thing together. In process, I didn't have enough material left to build the back wall, but who cares, because you'll never see the back wall. So and why waste time on it? So I built it up. I either didn't come with these roof braces, or I didn't put them on. I don't remember. Yeah, I did need to go do some more. I'm not really happy with how it turned out, but it's a good. It'll probably be there forever. I may or may not replace this. So that was pretty easy. Here's a case. This is a factory that was on my branch line, and I know what they made. I know where they were. I have no information about the structure itself, so I get to freelance. So I looked at, I had one of these discontinued Walthers modular sets. They call it a 3-in-1 set, but of course I don't want any of those 3 plans. I want my own plan, so I call it the 4-in-1 set. And so let's see, what am I going to do here? So first thing, you can tell here, I built a mock-up, and we used that. We did a little bit of operations there. I've got these yellow cars that come in handy. I take these really crummy cars that I wouldn't want to put on my layout, and I paint them yellow so it reminds me what their purpose is. I just move them around. They're placeholders to give me a feel for things there. That way, if I drop a hammer on them, I don't get upset. So I took the parts out of the kit and I taped them up and started looking at them. So this one here, I didn't feel like the wall was long enough, and I taped it up again, and I taped it up again, and perhaps 3, 4, 5 times. I taped it up until I had it to where I wanted it. I wanted a nice long wall here to be able to put 2 cars. Make sure the 2 cars were shorter than the building. And so I built it up. I built a foundation and a dock and an interior scene. Got that put together, and it was actually this photo here. It almost looks like there's a bow in the roof line. So I went out and put a straight edge on it, and guess what? There is a bow in the roof line. So I tried to get the bow out of there, but it didn't want to unbend. So I ended up building a truss rod system here and I kept cranking on it, thinking something was going to pop, but it finally straightened out. And but I don't advise this. What I advise is making sure your wall that was too long of a run to leave unsupported. And so I would put legs in there next time I did this. So one of the things is, we look at our buildings from above, and if you only work with the very few rooftop detail kits that are available, they all look the same. And what I found working in the industry is that all the roofs have something completely different, very custom-made pieces for cooling systems, heating systems, filtration systems, so all kinds of things up on that roof there. So I looked at what pieces I had left from this kit, and I found I had all these doors, including a roll-up door for the roof, 3 doors for the structure, and I still don't know what this little structure is doing, but it's pretty busy. It's got pipes going to it, so it must be important. And if it looks like I failed to take this doorknob off, as seen over here, that's not a doorknob. That's a special feature. Okay, so yeah, you need special features on there. So yeah, that was easy. Here's a building I really like. This is an important business here on my branch line, and I like that it had this curved track coming in. So that's really neat. I'd like to model that. And so I built a mock-up, and we operated using the mock-up. So I got an idea of it looked like it was going to work fine. One of the operations guy says, "Oh, Don, that's never put an operational spur on a curve. You straighten that out." I said, "Nah, I'm keeping it. That's my railroad. I like the curve. We'll deal with it." But I did have to look at, the height of this building is really critical to be able to, especially this short guy here, seeing over to see if there's a car back there. So I need a one-story structure. And I looked around, and I thought this grocery distributor kit would work. And I taped it up, did the tape up around a mock-up, and I got it built up, and I didn't have nearly enough material. I bought 2 kits and used up basically all the parts from the 2 kits, and finally got it to where it looked good. The curved wall, I was thinking about using a heat gun on that, and it concerned me that I'd probably keep the heat gun on it too long and melt the thing. So I taped it around a paint can to see what would happen, and it actually worked really well. It sprung back some, but it worked out. So I put it together, and it turned out looking good. One thing is, when you kit bash, you always have to bring your own roof to the project. So again, this is 2 kits here. There'd be a seam, and it's not going to curve like this. So I'd need 3 or 4 or 5 roofs of this kit to fill it up. So I just buy styrene in bulk. You can go to any reasonably sized city will have a plastic supplier. You can go down and buy rolls of styrene. And so I went down there and got several different thicknesses. I think this is probably about 40 thousandths is what I would normally put on a roof. And so that's all one piece. I have some seams here that, the kit maker, Walthers, put them to where there's going to be, they expect it to be a 90-degree corner, outside corner. And so I'm putting it together, and they really don't fit together well when I flatten them out like this. But this kit happened to have downspouts, came with it. So there you go. Those downspouts go right where the seams are. and problem solved. Now, yes, I could use some styrene filler or something, but that's going to take a lot of work, and it really wasn't necessary. The logos really make your structure stand out as being something that belongs on your layout, and certainly takes your mind away from thinking this is a Walthers kit. So I was able to find that online. They're still in business, not at this facility, but found their logo, and your operators need the signage to know where they are. The other thing I started doing lately, I used to take all the scrap pieces from these kits and put them in a big pile, and pretty soon, the pile was so high, and if you go in there looking for something, it's almost impossible to find. So now my strategy is is there something I can make out of the pieces today that would be worthwhile? So in this case, I had the second floor of my second kit was unused. So I just built up this little building here, and who knows what it is. Maybe it's a bicycle shop. I don't know where I'm going to put it, but I built it up. So I just go ahead and paint it while I was painting the rest of them, and put it together. And so that's a neat little structure. Maybe I'll give it away. I don't know, but it's a good use of the material. If I tried to do this later, a year later, try to find all these pieces to make this, holy cow, I'd spend a couple of days trying to match up parts. Here's one. This is a depot in my grandmother's town that I'm modeling. I've got a little tiny scene there, and this is the only known photograph of it from the street side. And well, here's my stand-in structure again. This is actually tracks that I built out from my staging yard. So this is down in staging, and I'm making a little town down there, just so I can get this town modeled. So what's interesting about the structure is, unlike all my my other Burlington structures, they're in their large brick buildings, boxes, or they were the wood building like we looked at before. What's unusual is to have this kind of architecture with a tile roof, very unique. And so I was strolling through a hobby store, and I saw this kit, and I go, "Wow, look at that! It's a tile roof, and it's about the right size and shape and aspect ratio and all that. This is going to be perfect." Well, I took it home and I compared it to my photograph. I said, "This is not perfect at all. These doors and windows are way off, and the roof. Oh my gosh, what am I going to do with the roof? This is not going to work." So I threw it into the closet. And every couple of months, I'd pull it out of the closet and say, I need to figure out how to make that work. And I'd look at it and I'd get frustrated and I'd throw it back in. But then finally, I pulled it out one day and I said, when is it? Next month, the month after, maybe next year, I'm going to get around to scratch building this. And the answer is no. I'll probably never get around to scratch building this. Where's it going to get on the priority wheel? And so I said, I just need to dig in and do it. So first problem was these end walls here. So the end wall goes up above the roof, which is not what my prototype does. So I only had so much roof material, and rather try to get more roof material, I decided just to make the building a little bit shorter. So I cut the long walls and glued them back together with this outward reaching part, and you can see I'm clamping it with a rubber band and a file. So you have to do some interesting clamping from time to time when you're doing this. So that worked out. But then what do I do about what I call the Taco Bell look here? So it was easy to take the brick portion and square it off, and you can see the lighter brick there where I squared off that extra loop. But then the stonework is a separate piece, and what do I do there? So I ended up using a chisel blade and chiseling off the round part, and then finding some appropriate size styrene to fit in there. And I put in one side, trim it down, and put in the other side, and match it up. So when you're kit bashing, you oftentimes have to use a lot of extra bracing because you have joints where there weren't intended to be joints. And you need to fill holes that have features that you haven't used that have to be filled. Here I put in an interior. And so I finished it up. And sure, you look back and say, yeah, the doors and windows are still all wrong. But, you know, this is another structure that's been gone for 50 years. And is there somebody, you know, in town that would say this is definitely not the right depot? You know, most people say, oh, yeah, that looks like it. And again, it's your railroad, so it's I'm calling it good enough. But let's take a sidebar here. And I was just having a drink, so everybody likes a good sidebar. Talk about painting your town. So Walthers, in their instructions, don't talk about painting, and it appears that they assume that you're not going to paint their kit. And the reason I say that is step one is glue the window glazing into the window and glue the window into the wall. Well, if you're going to paint anything, if you're going to paint the window trim different than the building, you're going to paint, you're not going to paint over glass. You know, this isn't going to work at all. So you really need to think about painting all of your structures. And so, you know, why? Well, we just talked on this one. You know, I did all the surgery here on the stonework. I filled these holes here and filed them, got them flush. But, you know, that really stands out. I had to trim a little tab off of the roof. And in doing so, I end up with this lighter color than the mold, what mold produces on the surface. So you really need to cover all that up. Plus you want to hide some odd joints. And, but the other thing is you want to give it the look that you want, which is probably not the same as what Walthers planned. So changing the order is I will go and build, assemble all the pieces that are going to have the same color. And then I'll paint those up. So, and I did not take these photos for this clinic. I take this as a matter of record keeping. So when I paint this, I pose it next to its paint can. And so that way I know I can always go back and look at these photos and say, oh, I used that color. Now, if I like that color and want to reuse it, or if I didn't like that color, you know, that gives me information. And I'll build the, I'll paint the doors and windows. I'll leave them on the screw and tape them to a tape stick and a paint stick rather, and paint those up. So I'll get those component parts all painted, and then I'll put it together. So here I've put the doors and windows in. I put the stonework in and some other supports. Put all that together. I weathered it with some. I did a Indian ink wash and then pan pastels and get all the weathering in. And then finally, the last thing is you put in the window glazing because you don't want, you know, your weathering products on your windows. Maybe you want them a little dirtied up, but not that dirty. So window glazing goes in last instead of first. So paint really does make a difference. I was sorting through some things in the layout room, and I collected a box of N-scale things that go way back to the day when my son and I were working on N-scale layout. And I brought these over to my N-scale friend, and I said, "Hey, Dave, let me give this to you." He says, "Oh yeah, Interstate Fuel and Oil." He says, "I just built that." He says, "Here it is. Look at the difference. Those are exactly the same kit. You know they're the same kit because he didn't even kit bash it. All he did was paint it and weather it." Now, I don't know of anybody that wants the original Walthers colors of this kit compared to what my friend turned out. So is painting important? Yes, absolutely. And you're not building contest models. You spray paint them and it'll be fine. The other thing that painting can do is when your eyes see this, your brain tells you that these are the same industry. I don't have to put a sign up there. Your brain automatically makes that decision that those two buildings go together somehow. And so your paint does that for you. Let's run through a few more examples. This is the Eola Yard Office, and there's only 2 photos we found. This one and the one I've got up in the corner is the end view. And I got information from my Historical Society friends that actually worked in this building, and they gave me some dimensions. And I kind of took the average of what they said and drew it out. So again, a rare case where I made a drawing. I was able to make it with no compression and fit on my layout. So this is my yard over here. Getting the material. So this is a Butler building kind of metal building, and I cannot find anybody that produces that material. I finally did find it in a Walthers Guard Shack kit. And fortunately, it's a pretty small kit, and I need a lot of material. So I went and I made some sketches, nothing real fancy. I made some sketches of what do I need, and because I needed over a dozen different wall sections to build this thing. And then I went to these are all the parts you get with the kit. It's on one sprue, the whole thing. But it's small enough to fit in the copy machine. So I made up a bunch of copies, and then I copied them in different colors so I could keep track of how many kits I'd used and where the parts came from and where they went to. So then I taped them back up again, kind of over my sketches to see what it would look like. And I determined that 3 kits was the right number. So I got those. And again, I need roofing. So the kit comes with some roof. I'm going to use that. I need some other roof. I need this ribbed roofing. I also need asphalt shingles. So I built it up, and you can see this one wall here took pieces from 5 different sections. So I glued those together and then trimmed off the height of them. But I use these corners here. I find them real handy if you really want a solid 90-degree corner. Those work well. You can also use scrap parts from your scrap bin if you got something like a dock door that you can use. It's a good 90 degrees. Duplos if you don't have to worry about what it looks like. You don't have to see through the inside. And a lot of styrene bracing. So there it is again. I took the 3 roofs that came with the kits and put them in the main run here. My ribbed roofing is there, and my asphalt shingles are on this add-on porch here. So yeah, that took a lot more work. So that's kind of a more intermediate to advanced kit bashing. Let's talk about this one here. This is a situation where I'm inventing a structure to hide the walls and the corners on my layout. So I have a wall corner here, and then I have a view block at the end of the scene to separate these towns. My big factory is off to the left here. So I'm going to invent a structure here. I'm going to call it an office, a warehouse, what have you. And I looked at, when I go to the trade shows, I look for bargains on kits, so I'll have material for kit bashing. That way I can go to my inventory in the closet and see what's in there. This is going to be a big building, so I want to use a big kit. So this paper mill looked like it could do it. And so I started with a tape up, and I just lucked out. It fell right into place, and it made sense. These walls here look like they go together, and these short walls go with the big walls, line up perfectly. The only thing I had to do was to cut a section out of one of these short walls, and there I had it. So I built it up, This is what it looks like on the backside. Again, there's no backside, and I left one of the dock doors open. It adds a lot of interest to your structures when you can do that. And I built a indoor scene here with some. I've got a little background there, and I think there's a forklift in there. But there's not much on the backside. So let's look at, I think we got one more here. Here's a situation where I had the kit. I went to the closet and looked at this Champion packing company, the slaughterhouse. So what can I make? I've got a lot of projects I want to get going on. What can I make out of this? And so I looked at this machine shop we talked about earlier. That's a good candidate for it. That's a great candidate for using this. But then I also looked at a different town. There's a sand quarry, and they have a coal power plant, and I could use it for that. And as I looked at it, I said, I think I can get both of these buildings out of one kit. So if I take the three tall sides over here, one tall side here, and the short sides, I can put it together. Now the challenge is here. Look at that. Oh man, how's that going to work out? So I've got what's a large truck entry door here, a man door on the third floor of my building. Oh my gosh, that's not realistic. But stop and think about it. If you've been in an older city, where all the brick buildings are 100 years old, you see this all the time. There's all kinds of what I would call scars and warts, and there used to be a fire escape, and that's been taken out, and this is maybe there's a hoist up here, and they brought material up that way. There's all kinds of backstories you can make up. And going back to the paint story, once you painted this, you could stand there and look at this building for over a minute and not see this issue. And so keep that in mind. And if you do see it, then there's that backstory of, well, yeah, it used to have different serve different purposes. Lots of bracing. I ran out of material. I had to add in a piece of brick material here and here, but there's not much on the backside. The other structure went together just no problem at all. I was just building it per the instructions, except not putting on the back wall and just putting in some pieces of square styrene to hold it in place. So one thing is you want to part of kit bashing is, again, it's customizing it. So make things interesting. So here, one of these doors, this is plugged with bricks. Okay, another story about they used to be an opening but isn't. Here's a roll-up door. Here's a hoist. Add different things that create interest. So I got all done. I built two structures out of one kit that I paid half price for at a train show. So again, kit bashing can be a friend to your budget. You can accomplish quite a bit. Let's talk about a little bit something different, fascia flat. So I ended up with a situation on one of my branch lines. I've got 4 industries that totally ran out of room for a structure, and everybody's seen that. And there's a lot of ways to do it, and a lot of people handle it this way, and that's the end of it. This is Benson Manufacturing. If you got a car for Benson Manufacturing, you drop it here, and that's the whole story. Well, I wanted something more, so I had some pieces of channel from a cabinet project. I didn't need these for what I did. Those are surplus pieces of steel. So I sandwiched. I've actually got not only a front to these buildings, but I've got the backside has dock doors on it. So this is my rainbow bread. I remember this. This is only a few blocks from my house. So just a piece of masonite with a label wasn't enough for me. So put together. And so, again, a lot of things you can do. Nobody's going to build you a kit that does this. If you got special needs like this, kit bashing is pretty much the only way to do it. Well, scratch building certainly, but again, why bother? Here's a case. Here's one of the fairly large structures on my layout. This is the Barber Green factory, and Barber Green was the inventor of the asphalt paving machine, and so they produced paving machines. They also produced mobile asphalt plant mixing plants, and I was involved in this part of the business for 2 summers, so I knew quite a bit about the asphalt mixing plant. And so when I saw this in a hobby shop, holy cow, look at that! There's an asphalt mixing plant. I said, "Wow, man, I gotta have one of those." But well, what do I do with it? I don't need one, but I do need one. I need loads coming out of my factory. So I took the parts and I broke them down into sizes that would fit on both a flat car and fit on the highway. Because these are all mobile plants. They will sit somewhere for a year or 2 at the job site and then get rolled away to some other place. Painted them Barber Green colors, and I was so excited about that. I went and got another kit so I could have plenty of loads coming out. People ask me what kind of tools I use. Screw cutters, of course, you want to get a good clean separation on your parts. The nibbler, I think a lot of people know about the nibbler. If you don't, you should look at getting one. You can get them at your hobby store or Micromark or the tool guy at the train show. These are real handy for getting in and just nibbling off little pieces that are typically always interior parts. You got to drill a hole big enough to fit the nibbler in, and then you can go to work chomping away at it. The main tools, though, are your good old hobby knife, and it's for most things, and then a razor saw for some other things. The really important tool are these 18-inch rulers. I found these on Amazon. Actually, you get 2 of them for $12 or something ridiculous. It's the cork backing that's critical. When you're trimming off a piece, we talked earlier about that canning factory. I need to trim one section of the 4 off of there. You want to be able to get that straight edge in there, and you don't want it to slip. And you make a light passage, but still, it's real easy for that to slip on you. If you have a shiny ruler on a piece of shiny plastic, they don't hold together very well. But the cork really helps that. The razor saw is handy when you're doing something like this. If you have a complex shape on your part, sometimes it's easier if you can cut it from the backside and still get what you want. That's much easier cutting. But if you have to make sure that it exactly lines up with all the features that you have out here, then you need to cut from the front side, and that can be literally a bumpy ride. So, and how do you do that? Very carefully. So, turn off the TV, turn off the radio, lock the door, lock the dog out of the room, make very slow passes to get make that cut and get it in there. What kind of glues do I use? For super glue, I really like these Loctite bottles because the problem with super glue is you open up one of those little tubes and you have to use it all in the next hour or so, or it's useless. These dispense something as small as a drop, put the cap back on, and it's good to go. It's really nice. They have it in the liquid form and the gel form, and I use both of them depending on what I'm doing. I'll use the gel if the surfaces are slightly uneven, so I'm kind of filling in addition to gluing. Of course, you've got a kicker, an accelerant if you want to speed up your super glue. And you see I don't have a cap on it. That's because when I realize that I need the kicker, I need it right now, and I reach over with one hand. I don't have another hand to take the cap off. I need it like right now. For styrene glue, I really like the Walthers Super Expert. It comes with this needle-like applicator, so again, you can get very precise amounts into small spaces. One of the nice things about the Walthers Super Expert glue is when I use it, I feel like I must be a super expert. You know, if I wasn't a super expert, they wouldn't sell me the glue. That's all I can figure. So it's got that going for it. The other kind of styrene glue, Plastruct, Bondine, whatever. There's a lot of different varieties of this. All of them work fine. This is my bottle of my regular glue, and this is glue of filler. And so some of you probably understand how that works. You take a bottle that's almost getting empty, and you drop in pieces of styrene, like sprues, in there until it creates a real gooey, like a pancake syrup kind of consistency. And then when you have a big gap in something, you can dab that in there and fill up the gaps, which you can't do with these other liquid glues. And then canopy glue, if you're working around windows or something like that. One last thought is kit disguising. So this is bashing without bashing. So let's take a kit like the Red Wing. It's sold in two different sizes. The Red Wing milling is a full structure, full depth, and Centennial Mills is a background building, meaning it's only a couple inches deep. This is so neat because it has so many great details. But when I see one of these on a layout, you know, the illusion is lost. It's like looking behind the curtain at Oz. You know, you go like, holy cow, that's all there is? Because you're trying to portray, whether you're doing a prototype or whether you're doing freelance, you're trying to portray some real railroad out there somewhere. And if you have a lot of Walthers kits that look like Walthers kits, you lose that illusion. And so, you know, when I look at different structures, like Dairy Queen's fine. You know, if you're going to have a Dairy Queen on your layout, that's great, because there's a Dairy Queen in every single town, and building a Dairy Queen exactly to the plan is perfect. But let's look at these other structures. You know, I have never seen one of these structures in real life. A Northern Light and Power, you know, Walton & Sons lumber. I've never bought lumber from a Walton & Sons lumber. You know, I don't know. There apparently was one prototype of them somewhere, but you know, I've seen, you know, like hundreds of Walton & Sons lumbers around the country, but they're all on model railroads. And so not only does the structure, it's the label. And here, plant number 4. Has anybody ever seen plant number 2 or 3? No, it's always number 4. And Geo Roberts printing. How specific is that? There is no way that, you know, that is on a plausible layout. So step 1 is don't use the decals that Walthers gave you. Sure, you can use the part that says no trespassing and stuff like that, but don't use the one that says Red Wing or Centennial Mills. Here's some great examples. So this is the Centennial Mills kit, and these guys put different names on to fit their prototype, fit their freelance, whatever it is, and you know, it gets you embedded in the mystery of their layout, rather than, oh, there's that Walthers kit. In my situation, I've done some searching on the internet. I've come up with all these prototype logos that my prototype used, and I've already built structures. And there's Equipto there, and there's Rainbow. These all fit on my layout. So what do I do in cases where I can't find the logo? So I make one up. Okay, and so you just get on your computer and you bring in different fonts and different things and play around with it. This is actually a creative thing, and this is something you can do while your wife's watching her TV show. And so if you're not good at doing this kind of graphics on your computer, and I know a lot of you aren't, you call up your granddaughter and tell her what you need, and she'll come over and help you. So so how do you turn those into decals? Micromark sells a nice pack of 10 decal sheets for $17, and I've had real good luck with this. So I'll get everything the way I want it onto my sheet there, and I'll take it over to Kinko's or somewhere so I get a nice crisp, high quality copy, so I don't rely on my printer. And I just one print. I'll make duplicate copies. I'll make like 6 copies of this logo on that one sheet. That way, if I mess them up, I've got extra copies. But the thing is, it depends on what era you're modeling. Things used to be sign painters would be suspended from ropes from a building and paint these things right on the building, and that's what your decals are used for. But that kind of went away after World War II. That most things are now, certainly today, signs are made up in a sign factory and brought out to the site and bolted to the wall. You don't have sign painters out there actually drawing on the bricks. And so these are structures that I had built. And again, none of these ended up being decals because I'll just print them out on paper, cardstock, whatever's appropriate, and tape them on there. So the name, the decals are one, but the paint color is also. If you keep it in the Walthers paint colors, then it makes your mind think, oh, that's the Walthers kit. But these things here, I don't immediately think of Walthers when I see the structure. Different colors here. This guy here did a nice job of painting it all brown, but then he messed it up by putting Centennial Mills on it. So he gets a plus and a minus. The other thing is what really makes Centennial Mills special is all the features. And if you leave the features off, it changes the complexion of the building and makes it look different. So if you don't have the fire escape and you don't have the dust collectors, it looks a lot different. So, do you need a new structure? So I say, if you do, don't build it. You should dry and bash it. So with that, let's see if there's any questions. Oh, let me talk about references. So Tony Custer's book is still in print. You can get that at Kalmbach or your hobby store. Art Curran was the model railroader guy from I believe the 60s, 70s era, and he was a master kit basher. And I still talk about him around the staff there, but he's got a lot of other ideas. And then, of course, if you want a copy of this clinic, I will gladly send it to you. Just send me an email. So with that, let's go ahead and open it up. Larry, what questions do we have?
Yes. Do you have any questions? Yes, we have one here.
I have a question. When you take those signs, you can find signs and logos on the internet. Do you have a way of modifying them so you can use, say, a logo that you find and then put a different name on it or different color? Is there some software you can use? Can you do PowerPoint, use PowerPoint to do those kinds of things? Any suggestions about making those kinds of modifications?
Yeah, I would say Photoshop. I'm not a Photoshop. I've got friends that are Photoshop gurus. They will go and Photoshop my head onto something ridiculous, or and I see stuff all the time. That's, you kind of have to learn the software, but I've done that a few times and been successful with it. I use PowerPoint a lot, but it will not give that kind of resolution. I know I was looking for logos for a ice cream truck that I was building, and I was able to get the ice cream man, the logo I was looking for, and it was blurry, but Photoshop can clean some things up.
Do you have a way of modifying them so you can use, say, a logo that you find and then put a different name on it or different color? Is there some software you can use? Can you do PowerPoint, use PowerPoint to do those kinds of things? Any suggestions about making those kinds of modifications?
Yeah, I would say Photoshop. I'm not a Photoshop. I've got friends that are Photoshop gurus. They will go and Photoshop my head onto something ridiculous, or and I see stuff all the time. That's you kind of have to learn the software, but I've done that a few times and been successful with it. I use PowerPoint a lot, but it will not give that kind of resolution. I know I was looking for logos for a ice cream truck that I was building, and I was able to get the ice cream man, the logo I was looking for, and it was blurry, but Photoshop can clean some things up real quickly, and then you can add your own names to it.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Does anybody else have any questions? I
No
can't see
questions,
if
but
anybody's
very
asked.
good,
Does anybody
Don.
on Zoom have a question? You do, speak up.
Don, I don't have any questions, but I liked your presentation. It's very good.
Okay. Thank you, Rich. Appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Yeah. Yeah, I saw it again too, and I still loved it. So thank you, Don. That's great.
You've seen it 3 times now, at least.
I'll see it again too sometime. Thank you.
Hey.
That's great stuff. All right. Well, thank you then. Guess that's it.
See, I'll stop sharing. Stop the share. Okay. All
Okay,
right.
guys. So I guess we can all go home and think about what you want to kit bash then. Thank you. And thank you, Fred. Appreciate it.
Don, good seeing you again.
Yeah, good seeing you again, Fred.
You bet.
I'm glad you were able to make it to Texas.
Yeah, great times. Hey, let me throw something in here on top of Don. And if you guys are looking for an inexpensive graphics program, and by the way, Don, I agree with you 100%. I use Photoshop for 90% of what I do. In a previous life, I used Photoshop at the office, so I can make it stand up and dance. I'm not willing to pay the cost for it, though. Thank you very much. But I use a little program called paint.net. Now, don't go looking for paint.net as paint.net in your browser, but you can go search for it. And I'll send the link actually to Larry. It's free. And honestly, and most of the time in that previous life, instead of firing up Photoshop, I would fire up paint.net. It did almost everything I needed from Photoshop, and it was there and done and gone. So I'll send that link to Larry, and then he can share it with you guys. It's a neat little program.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Fred. Yeah, I will send that on. I appreciate it. Yeah, try that too.
Yep.
All right. Well, thank you, gentlemen. Good seeing you all. And come on back next month and all. And take care, Don and Fred and all you guys. Rich.
See you guys later.
Have a good one.
Take care.
All right.